fellow mathematicians. Welcome to the podcast where math is figure-outable. I'm Pam Harris.
And I'm Kim Montague.
And we're here to suggest that mathematizing is not about mimicking or rote memorizing, but it's about thinking, reasoning, about creating and using mental relationships. That mathematics class can be less like it has been for so many of us, and much more like mathematicians working together. We answer the question, if algorithms are not your main goal, then what is?
Yeah, so last week we talked a little bit and we started a series on fractions. We talked about the 5 interpretations of rational number. And this week we're going to dive into our young learners, right? This one's for you, little teachers.
You just said little teachers.
Teachers
of littles. Okay, what's really funny, y'all, is that I'm the one that usually messes that up, and Kim doesn't. And so today, for her to mess it up, I'm always the one that will say, okay, you young teachers out there. I mean, you teachers of young students, which you could be young, but you're the fact is that you're teachers of young students. What's really bad is when I say, okay, you old teacher. No. So today, it's never about old teachers, right? It's only about teachers of older students. Today, we're going to talk about the littles. How can we introduce fractions to our youngest students, youngest kids? We're even going to suggest ages of kids who, how do I say this? That it's not in the standards to introduce fractions, which we agree with, by the way. We agree that the fractions should come later in the standards by far, but that doesn't mean that they're not naturally being used with younger students and that we shouldn't be beginning to build fraction understanding with those youngest little students that we have. So today we're going to start with one of my more learning experiences. Okay, really
can't wait to hear.
So if you remember a little bit of my history, one of the ways that I became who I am today is that my own students, my kids, I have 4 personal kids, were going to school. I was enamored. I was fascinated by the mathematizing they were doing at home, and they were bored at school. So I dove into the research about how we could teach math better. And I also dove into my kids' classes at school. And I'm so grateful to this day for those teachers who let me come in and pilot stuff and try stuff and just, get a feel on. And to be clear, I did a lot of dumb stuff at the beginning. Maybe not a lot, but I did enough that, and so here's an example of that. One time I had been doing PD with the teachers K-5. And we decided, a lot of the teachers were like, what does this look like? Like, you're telling us to do this stuff. We can't picture it. Like, can you come do that? And so we kind of came up with this plan where I actually went on campus one day. It was a kindergarten through 5th grade school. And I taught kindergarten through 5th grade at each grade level, a sample lesson, a model lesson. So I had prepared this model lesson. And all of the teachers at that grade level sort of came into that one classroom and kind of stood. We were able to cover classes and subs and stuff. And so all the 3rd grade teachers came in and they stood in the back of the room. And I did this sample lesson, this model lesson, to kind of try to give teachers a feel for how we could be mathematizing with our students. I'll tell you what, Kim, the hardest part of that whole day, I had so much newfound respect for specials teachers, for PE teachers and music teachers, because it might be like, yeah, sure, I just did this, kindergarten through 5th grade. But they weren't in order. So by that, like halfway through the day, I would the kids would walk in the room, and I would say, "Speak to me. I need to hear who you are a little bit. I gotta get what animal am I working with in this moment? Oh, okay, that's the 3rd grade. Okay, I got it. Now I can talk to you, because I had to have a sense of feel of where. Anyway, so that was kind of a funny outcome of me doing these model lessons. So on this one particular day where I was doing these model lessons, in this one particular lesson, it was I'm pretty sure it was kindergarten. I don't think it was 1st grade. I'm pretty sure it was, but it might have been either one of them. Kindergarten or 1st grade, we had planned this really super cool game to play with the kids. And I was going to show these teachers about how I could walk around while the kids were playing, and I could, as I was circulating, I could ask these really cool questions, and then we could bring them together at the end and have this really neat conversation. By the way, which had nothing to do with fractions, but it was a number lesson. Anyway, so we had it all planned. I really thought through it well. I was ready to go. So I sat the kids down and I told them this beginning story. And I said, okay, so now we're going to play this game. The kids were rapt attention. They were fascinated. Everything was going super. The teachers around the room were like, all right, we're ready to see this really cool teaching. And I said, okay, in order to play this game, first thing you guys are going to do is cut the deck in half. So like split the deck in half. So each of you have half the deck. And the teachers looked at me like, are you crazy? And I was like, go ahead, everybody. All the kids, they were in partners and then they had the deck of cards. I was like, okay, like split the deck in half. Y'all, we spent the rest of that time, the rest of that math time that day, and the next week of math times in that class talking
Yeah.
about splitting things in half. Like talking about what it means to have an equal, like you have half the cards and I have half the cards, what half even
There's
means.
52
I mean, to be
cards in the
clear,
deck.
those kindergarten well, we played a lot of
Yeah.
cards at my house and in the family, and so I was really clear that they were just going to deal out. They were going to give
Yeah.
you one and me one and you one and me one, or at a minimum, they were just going to like eyeball it and give like, okay, here's half, here's half. Those kids just like stared at me, and they would kind of I don't know that they were eyeballing it, but they would like give one kid two cards and
Yeah.
the other kid would keep the rest. I'm like, that's not what? That's not half. And they just looked at me with this blank kind of like, what are we supposed to do, miss?
Oh, I'm
The
sure.
teachers were cracking up. They were like, I'm sure you had a really good lesson planned, Pam, but our kids can't, they don't know how to do that. So could we say parents of younger students,
Yep.
play card games with your kids? Like split the deck in half with your kids. Like let them don't you don't have to make a big lesson about it, but as you deal out, say even I don't know, you're playing tens go fish or you're playing just normal go fish or whatever, and you just get everybody gets 7 cards as they watch you deal one for you, one for you, one for you, one for you, back, another one for you, another one for you, another one for you, another one. As they watch you sort of deal out, they're seeing you create these equal sets of cards. And that would be a thing to start with, is that they get experience in knowing, ooh, if I'm gonna give equal sets of or just in half, if it's just me and you, we're just playing, then I give
Yeah.
you one, I give me one, I give you one, I give me one. That is a way to split things in half. So Kim, let me give you an example of
Okay.
what I
Yep.
said. We spent the rest of the week, literally. So give me some things. Just name some
Like
things in a
anything, like
classroom.
staplers.
Like no, like Kim, like there might be two
Oh,
staplers
one
in the
for you,
classroom,
one
so
for
that's kind of
me.
easy to split in half. You get one,
Oh,
I get one.
like
like we're gonna split some things in half,
oh,
Kim. So
okay,
name
okay,
some
okay,
other
okay.
things in the
Like
classroom.
snap cubes.
Okay, perfect. So I might give these two students. I might give them a bag of or a what's the word? A tote of snap cubes. I might say, here are these snap cubes. Now, if they're kindergarten kids, I'm not going to give them like millions of snap cubes, right? I'm not going to give
Yeah,
them all the
yeah.
snap cubes. I'll hopefully have a lot of snap cubes. I'm going to give them a manageable amount of snap cubes, and I'm also going to be thinking about which set of students I'm giving the snap cubes to.
Sure.
Versus, Kim mentioned something else in our classroom.
Um, Teddy bear counters.
Nope, that's like this. I have the same number of teddy bear counters as well. Maybe I have fewer. I probably have fewer teddy bear counters than I have snap cubes. So I might give these kids who I know have some sense already of dividing by two. They're not dividing by two, but like splitting it numbers in
Uh-huh.
half that they might deal
Uh-huh.
out. I might give them the snap cubes, and I might give a group who's just kind of like on the verge of that, but they can count pretty high. I might give them the teddy bear counters. Now, give me something where there's fewer of naturally in the classroom.
Maybe books in a particular series that you're reading.
Okay, cool. Or maybe like books in this part of the shelf, or maybe books in
Mhm.
this tote. Sometimes teachers keep books
Yeah,
in a tote. I might
yeah.
hand them just this tote of books and just say, "Hey, here's just this bucket of books. Yeah, split them up. You get half, and she gets half, or
Okay.
he gets half. What's something even fewer that we might have? Not
Um,
staplers though, not just two.
uh, I'm thinking pencils in a pack. Like there might be a pack of 10
Oh,
pencils.
nice, nice. So then I might give kids who are still kind of struggling to learn the counting sequence. I might say,
Mhm.
"Hey, guys, let's split these up." And that might actually not even be the best criteria to determine who I'm going to give the small numbers to and the big numbers to. I might do my best at saying, "Oh, I think you may need a smaller set and you need a larger set," and then watch. Right, I'm circulating and watching, and I might go, "Oh, you're struggling a little. Let me back up. Let me give you a smaller, or work with you a little bit and give you a smaller number of things to split. And then as I see you
Yeah.
being successful with that, then I might give you what's something else we have in class that we have a ton of paper clips, right? Like I might give you
Yeah.
a box of paper clips, or what's another thing that we have lots of? Base 10,
Erasers.
base
Yeah.
10 erasers, base 10 cubes. I might give you the base 10 cubes. Like whatever kinds of things we have hanging around, I'm just gonna say, hey guys, today we get to have these. Like we're gonna share them fairly. So that, yeah, teachers of younger students, a thing you could do is to just have kids divide things into, just split them evenly among students. Then you can have fun conversations when there's odd numbers of things and decide
Mhm.
kind of how you're going to do that. That gets really fun when the thing you're splitting is splittable. So, for example, today's snack we're going to have, okay, this is pre COVID. I mean, we're in the middle of COVID, but I can only think of a snack right now that, so help me, Kim. If I had like graham crackers, and so I say to them, hey guys, for snack today, I've got 3 graham crackers for each of the 2 kids. 3 of those,
Mhm.
like the big, the whole size graham cracker. And so I might say, like, how many graham crackers did each kid get? And if I give 2 kids 3 graham crackers, well, they're gonna, you get one, you get one. What do we do with this other one? Well, they could cut
Mhm.
it in half, right? That's the thing. But if I'm giving them pencils or markers, might be even better. If I here 2 kids, here are 3 markers. What are you gonna do? Like, then there's some conversation about, oh, we can't really split that, so then we have to give this one away to another group, or I don't know. Today you get 2 markers and I get one, and tomorrow I get, like there's a reason for sort of splitting things. If you can actually come up with a reason for splitting, it would be even better. Like,
Mhm.
I just said reason twice, meaning 2 different things. So one, thinking about splitting things that aren't splittable, and like reasoning how you're going to do that. But then also, as you say to students, hey, today we're going to share fairly with these things. You guys get the snap cubes, you guys get the teddy bear counters, you guys get the pencils. As you do that, it'd be really cool if you could think of a context where that would make sense.
Yeah.
One context that I can think of that could make sense is that you might say, hey, we're going to have some visitors and we're going to give them half of everything that I've given you guys to share today. And so you guys are going to have to split them all in half because we're going to let this other class borrow our things. Like, that could be a reason for like splitting them in half. And then you have to decide if you're actually going to if you're actually going to let anybody borrow them or whatever. But come up with something, some reason where the kids are like, oh, all right, well, we better, like, we want to share them fairly, so we better do that. And then kids get right at doing a lot of counting as they think about, oh, maybe I should be explicit about why they're counting. Like, because some kids will take, boy, I'm just talking. Sorry, Kim, I'm
No,
going to let
I'm
you in
I'm
in a
taking
minute.
it in. I have a few things I wanna I'm asking you about, but I'm
All right.
taking it in right now.
Excellent, excellent. So, say I give them the teddy bear counters, and I'm like, okay, let's share fairly. We got to make sure that we have the exact amount. Kids might just really go, like they just. If you can see my hands, I just like sort of split the teddy bears kind of in
Mhm.
2 groups, and then I go,
Mhm.
okay, we did it. Then I'm going to say, oh, do you think it's the same? Like the same
Yeah.
amount is here and there. Well, let's check. And so the kids count the one pile, and they get 25, and the kids count the other pile, and they get 27, and I go, not the same. What are you going to do? Oh, Kim, the reason that like we did 5 days of this is because sometimes the kids would like shove the 2 piles together completely. And like, okay, I better try to, and then randomly just split them apart. And I'm like, okay. Well, at first I was like panicking. There was a little bit of me that was like, oh no, they're going to have to. And then I thought, no, like there's a whole opportunity for them to count again.
Yes.
So we do this with young kids who we want to give lots of experience with counting. So they count again. This time they get 20. And what did I say before? 25 and 27. So that means
Uh-huh.
that they've got
Yep.
52. So maybe they have 20 and they have 32 in the other pile. And so then I'm like, well, that's not fair either. What are you going to do? Now, at some point, I might like intervene and I might go, hey, well, before you just shove those 2 piles back together again, like,
Right.
could we think, what if you, like, which one's bigger? Which one has more? Well, I mean, like, could we do something besides shoving them all? Could you just like give some, like, and I do as little as possible to kind of suggest, maybe I might say, ooh, look at what the partnership over there did. And as they kind of watch them just sort of take a couple from the big pile and move it over and recount. Take a
Yeah.
couple from the big pile, move it over and recount. Again, you don't want to, this is where the determination of what numbers are good for which pair of kids, because we want it to be right on the edge of their proximal development, right? So they have the ability to think about it. They're struggling productively, but they're not struggling unproductively. They're not getting so frustrated that they're giving up. So that's why you're managing the numbers that you're giving different pairs of kids to keep all kids learning. So it's right on that edge of their learning.
Yep.
So that it's all right, Kim. I can't wait to hear the kinds of things that you were thinking about. Well, I
Well,
was going on and on and on.
two things that I think that we hear a lot of times really young learners saying half this, half this, half this, right? And they don't mean half, they
Oh,
mean part.
and to
They
be
mean part.
clear, I hear teachers and
Yeah.
adults saying, "Hey, just take your half over there," and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! They didn't have an equal share there.
Yeah.
That was yeah."
And
So
I
what you mean is the word "part" is different than the
yeah.
word "half."
And so
Okay.
we want to say what we mean, right? If it's not actually half, then we need to say part. The other thing I don't think I heard you mention that I
Hmm.
think is noteworthy is that we can help kids develop the idea of half as we do these experiences, but also recording. I didn't hear you say anything about recording, but if over and over again I'm counting all of these objects and I'm splitting them in half between me and you, then your amount and my amount should be the same. So
Hmm.
10 on your side, 10 on my side. Interesting. 5 on your side, 5 on my side. Interesting. So they're going to use these experiences to then see on my recording sheet, you get the same number as my number. And if
Ooh,
those two
nice.
numbers are not matching, then something must be off.
Nice, 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 nice. And can I take it just a little further?
Yeah.
And at some point, then when we would then write the total down. So if you have
Mhm.
10 and I have 10, then we have 20. And if you have 5 and I have 5, we have 10. And those were two numbers that are way too. So if I have 7 and you have 7, we have 14. Then we might notice that the totals are always sort of these even numbers,
Yeah.
right? And so that's noteworthy. Then we can kind of make this connection between these even numbers. Ooh, so if we've doubled something, do we always get an even number? Is that true? And now
Yeah.
I'm getting a little older at this point, right? I'm not necessarily
Right.
doing that with our youngest learners, but at some point we can sort of notice that when we double whole numbers, we're always getting these even numbers. That's interesting. So then what happens when we try to half, split in half? Have is English language, like the verb to have something has a V in it. So crazy. So when we try to have or take half of, ooh, there's the operator meeting, take half of an odd number, what's necessarily going to have to happen? We're going to have to split something in half. Or, like I said, you get the marker one day and I get the marker the next day. Totally
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's
Hey,
interesting to me that the standards start, sorry, I'm
keep
going to
going,
dive
keep
in.
going.
The standards often start with students considering the fraction of a continuous object.
Before we go there, though, Kim, can I just mention one quick story?
Sure.
So, you're going to go to standards, and I totally want you to talk about that. But
Yeah.
I want to remind you of a story that a situation you were in when you were doing a problem with a group of third graders. Do you remember the fraction thing that you were doing with third graders that we videoed that one time, where it was really interesting? Now, so these are even older kids, right? Where I saw kids talk about halves and thirds when, let's see, halves. Yeah, no, when they talked about thirds, but they didn't really mean thirds. Do you remember the story I'm talking about?
Oh, say more.
No. Okay, so you were having kids split these things evenly among kids, and I watched them take these rectangles and first cut them in half, and they would give out a half, and then they were left with. So it's like they had three students they were sharing with, and they had like four rectangles, and so they gave everybody a half, and then they were left with a half, and so they're like, okay, now we need to cut this half into pieces. And when they cut that half into pieces, then they counted. I'm not describing this very well. They had this whole rectangle cut in half. So if you can picture that half line, but then they took one of those halves and they cut it into three pieces. And when they cut it into three pieces, now all of a sudden, if you can picture that rectangle, they had a rectangle with, oh, how many lines? One, two, three, four lines. Is that right? No, one, two, three lines, because they
Mhm.
had the half line and then they had the two lines that were cutting it into three pieces. I don't know if I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be, but if you can picture the rectangle cut in half, so there's this whole, two sizes that are the same size, but then in one of those halves, they cut it into thirds. My point is, they were calling each of those pieces one, two, three, four
Mhm.
fourths,
Yeah.
because they had created
4
four
pieces.
chunks, but the
Mhm.
four chunks weren't equal, right? Because they had the big half and then they had the half cut into thirds. Part I remember is that they were like half, 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 third, third, third. And you were like, whoa, 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 whoa. What is this piece right here? And they said, oh, well, it must be a fourth. And you said, why is that a fourth? And they said, because there's four pieces.
Yeah, it's almost like as it got more complicated, they forgot a really important thing that they needed to be fair shares, right? They just
Yeah.
counted pieces.
They
Yeah,
just
I don't
counted
remember that. I'm
pieces.
glad you
Yep.
do.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Continue. Go back to go back to standards.
Well, I was just going to say that particularly with our younger students, it's interesting that the standards talk about continuous objects like a particular shape. And we're suggesting here that we also need to have a set, right? To start dealing with and grappling with things like splitting this card deck in half, splitting
Mm-hmm.
a particular number of objects in half,
Absolutely.
all the
Yes.
while developing half.
Yeah, so we might like take a brownie pan and we might split that up, and that's kind of what the standards suggest. But we want to have students have experience with both of those,
Yeah.
splitting kind of that brownie pan up into fractional pieces, sharing that evenly. But we also want to do things like we've suggested today, like the deck of cards or the markers or the cubes or the teddy bear counters. Like all that's all important. We agree with the standards that we don't want to test that too early.
Oh,
So if
yeah.
you're like, but Pam, my standards don't call for that. Yeah, yeah, right, right. But we can still give students experience. Notice that with all of those splitting in half tasks that I just suggested with the young learners, that it really became more about counting and less about one half, but we're building one half. It's like we're using the opportunity to build one half really to get kids more experience with counting, which is what we need at those younger grade levels. Totally cool. So, y'all, develop one half for a while. Like, we're actually suggesting that of all of the unit fractions is where there's a one in the numerator, that one half is the most important one to start with. Like, develop one half. Don't do one half, one third, one fourth, one fifth. Like, don't do all those at the same time. No, no, no. Like, start with one half and really do a good job developing that one half and doubles. We'll
Mhm.
just mention Kathy Fosno does an excellent job of helping young students do that. One example of how she does that is in her, excuse me, in her book called Beads, Shoes, and Making Two. And she also does a really good job with some games in her book called Games for Early Number Sense. So we'll put those references in the show notes. A couple places for you guys to look to really get some other kinds of things to help kids develop one half and doubling.
Yeah.
Because we need kids to double and find half. Those are two important things to do.
Yeah, we've shared that we love the game I Have You Need before
Hmm.
in our podcast and some other places, but remember that we also love to do a back and forth routine with kids of all ages with doubling number and having number. So I might do a string like I say double five, half five. Now that wouldn't be with our super young learners, but double six, half six, double 10, half 10, double nine, half nine. So we're back and forth getting kids to think about what's double of a number, what's half of a number.
Hmm. And in between there, we're asking kids what they think. We're
Yeah.
modeling their thinking, right? We're making that thinking visible. So
Yeah.
totally cool. Yeah.
So what about beyond halves? Once I've got kids who've established a really good understanding of half, young students can do more than just half. What are the other fractions?
Totally cool. Yeah. So let's make it all about fair sharing and
Mhm.
my share. So if I'm sharing, me and two other students are sharing, me and two, that's totally bad grammar. Two other students and me are sharing, two other students and I are sharing. I don't even
I
know how to do that. Three of us are sharing. If three of us are sharing, then I get one third. If
Yeah.
four of us are sharing, I get one fourth. If eight of us are sharing, I get one eighth.
Yep.
That's a unit fraction. So a unit fraction is where the numerator is one and it's my share and a fair sharing. And so we want to give kids examples where they share fairly to develop unit fractions. And we want to
Yep.
name them, we want to write them, we want to give kids, name them first for a long time before we write them,
Yep.
but give kids this sort of sense and a feel for what's my share in a fair sharing situation.
I think a lot of us also know too that cooking is a really good context for
Ooh, nice.
giving kids examples of things like doubling or having, right? My youngest bakes and makes things with me all the time. And he has his own measurement kit with spatulas and all the things. But what I love is that it came with a really nice set of measuring cups and spoons. And he is forever, particularly when he was younger, taking things like oil or water, and when I would say you need 1/4 cup of oil, he would, or water or whatever, he would take his 1/8 measuring and pour it into the fourth twice to see if it really was uh, double 1/8 would make 1/4. So he's constantly seeing what different versions of a fraction that he could do. We also talk about doubling recipes when people are coming over. We talk about having recipes if it's something that we're making that not everybody in the house loves to eat.
Yeah, we love to bake. And growing up, we always made cookies on Sunday, measuring cups, spoons, ask all the questions.
Yeah,
I want to point out that you had the patience to let him do that. So we don't always have all the time in the world to let kids sort of pour things in and out of measuring cups. But the more you do, the better kids will get with that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Interesting. We had an old set of plastic measuring spoons where the denominations, the if it said 1/2 teaspoon or a whole teaspoon, it was rubbed off like you couldn't see. And so kids were like, Mom, we need a teaspoon of baking powder. And I'd be like, yeah, which one of those do you think it is? And we
Oh.
would sort of reason by knowing what we knew what the smallest one was. And so we could kind of like reason up, oh, it must be this one. It can't be that one because that's the 1/2 tablespoon and that's the anyway. So like whatever you can do to encourage kids to reason. So how do you work with fractions with young learners? Share lots with young students and ask them to share fairly. Use the word part when you mean part. Use half when you actually mean really half, not just part. So share with your kids. Do this fair sharing things. Identify the kids share when they're sharing. Talk with your kids. Wonder about fractional amounts when you share. Totally great ways to begin having your youngest think about fractions.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. Please remember to join us on #MathStratChat on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram on Wednesday evenings, where we explore new problems with the world.
And if you find our podcast helpful, please rate it and give us a review. That way more people can find it wherever they get podcasts. Also, don't forget that we're collecting your questions that you want answered because we're going to answer them in an upcoming episode. So send those questions to kim@mathisfigureoutable.com. So if you're interested to learn more math and you want to help yourself and your students develop as mathematicians, then don't miss the Math is Figureoutable podcast because math is figureoutable.